While the world's superpowers are gathering in India, China is sending a delegation to North Korea this weekend. The news comes as concerns grow over Kim Jong-un's deepening ties with Beijing and with Moscow. Morgan Ortagus served as State Department spokesperson during the Trump administration. Morgan, thank you so much for being with us, and good morning to you. All of the news out of North Korea, it starts to sound like this familiar song that we all know the lyrics to, right? It follows several recent missile tests. But is there anything about these latest developments that tell us something we didn't already know about their relationship with China?
Well, thank you for having me this morning. I've got to say that North Korea is probably the most vexing challenge for any administration, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat. When people ask me, I say it's the one thing that befuddles many administrations. We've tried multiple approaches, yet they still continue to build nuclear weapons and to build ballistic missiles with the capability. Their whole point is trying to hit the homeland. That's why it is such a difficult challenge. So in the first few years of the Trump administration, Nikki Haley, who was UN ambassador at the time, was able to negotiate the toughest sanctions ever on North Korea, and China and Russia, who are a part of the Security Council, actually agreed to those. So remember that North Korea is on China's border. One of the things that China and Xi Jinping are very concerned about is that any instability in North Korea could bleed over into China, an already very populous country, a country, as you know, that is going through a lot of economic turmoil at the moment. So what is China seeking to do with North Korea? They're seeking stability. They want regime stability. They don't want thousands, hundreds of thousands of North Koreans coming over into their land, God forbid, if something were to happen. So that's really their main focus and their overarching policy. The Chinese also like the North Koreans to be a thorn in the side of the Americans. They don't mind when Kim Jong-un blusters and threatens nuclear weapons at the United States. I think, they sort of enjoy having someone that can poke and prod and irritate us.
Yeah, and come off as very strong as a leader because they know they may not see that same response from the United States. Russia, not surprisingly, believed to be hammering out an arms deal with North Korea. You look at Antony Blinken visiting Ukraine, promising another $1 billion in U.S. aid. Do we have any record keeping right now for how much money is left in the U.S. defense budget and where all the money to support Ukraine is coming from?
Yeah, we do. I mean, that's all in the Congress. And you'll see Republicans, of course, are calling on more transparency for where that money is going. You saw in the last Republican presidential debate, many of them were calling on transparency, accountability, and calling for the Europeans to do more for the defense of Ukraine. And I think it's very appropriate to question the administration. What is the strategy for how much longer America will support Ukraine militarily? Obviously not with boots on the ground, but with weapons. But, you brought up Russia, and I think that's a really important point. The Russians are reportedly trying to hammer out an arms deal with Ukraine to get with North Korea to get military support. Now, North Korea is a pariah state, right? They're under enormous global sanctions. They've been a pariah state for a long time, egregious human rights abuses. So it does say something about Russia and about Putin that they have to go to North Korea to help supply their military. It shows just what a desperate situation that Putin is in. However, even though Putin is desperate and even though Putin has to go to a pariah state like North Korea to get aid, they can still do that. For example, right now, over the last year, we have seen the Iranian regime, who is also under sanctions, providing a lot of these killer drones that the Russians use against Ukrainians, especially in Ukrainian cities against civilians. Iran has been under sanctions, but the United States is reportedly considering lifting sanctions on Iran, even though they are aiding Russia in that war against Ukraine. So you've got Russia seeking pariah states like Iran, like North Korea, in order to further their war. So even though it's a little bit desperate from Putin, they're still getting military aid from these countries.
Well, thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.